Hello, students, boys and girls. How are you all? So, it is so nice to be in grade 9. Yes? So, one more year and then you will go to the board class. You're almost half into the board classes. So, in grade 9, you will have all board pattern papers, board pattern questions. So, you should be prepared for the boards or start preparing for the board exams. Okay? So, in science, your first chapter is matter in our surroundings. So, this is related to chemistry, of course. So, in chemistry, you have 4 chapters, out of which the first chapter is matter in our surroundings. So, let's begin and see what is matter. So if you see all around you, if you're seeing in the picture, skateboard, hat, pen, table, snow, uh, then we have anything, hot chocolate, juice, water in the pool, wind, air, then animals, plants, everything is matter. So you already know what matter is. Yes, you have studied in your lower classes about matter. But here we are going to see a little more and in detail about what is matter made up of. Okay. So matter, of course, you all know also about the 3 states of matter. But let us do a recap and a revision so that we will be able to understand the composition of matter in a better way. Right? So, what is matter? Matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. This you have already done in your previous classes. Yes, anything that has mass and occupies space is called matter. Okay, then matter exists in 3 states, that is solid, liquid, and gas. Even this you have been learning right from your grade 4 or 5 also. Yes, but then as you have been growing and going from one class to another, you will see that the details which you study about matter will keep on increasing. Yes, you are studying about matter in detail. Similarly, here, after we go finish with the basics, we'll be doing a little in detail. So anything that has mass, so any substance, so every substance in the universe will have mass and it is occupying some space. So it is known as matter. Okay. Now let us see what is matter made up of. Previously, scientists were thinking that matter is like a block of wood, or some of them, some schools of thought, so thought that is matter moving continuously. So they were thinking, what is it made up of? So several experiments were conducted. For example, if you take some crystals of crystals of potassium permanganate, okay, crystals of potassium permanganate, which is pink in color, and you're just going to take about 3 to 4 crystals. I'm talking about 3 to 4 crystals. Crystals are very, very small. Okay. And put it in a glass or a beaker of water. Okay. So what happens? That the water turns pink in color. Now, from this beaker of water, I put it in a larger beaker or in a 1 liter of water. Then also the pink color will remain. Now, if this water is poured into a larger beaker of water or larger capacity or larger volume of water, even then the pink color remains. So you can imagine that these 3 to 4 small crystals of potassium permanganate, that means these crystals are made up of very, 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 very tiny particles. So by conducting such experiments, scientists, they came to a conclusion saying that matter is made up of very, 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 very tiny particles. Okay. And they are very, very small. We cannot imagine how small they can be. They cannot be seen even with the most powerful microscope. So they are so very small in size. So Finally, a conclusion was drawn by all the scientists that particles, the matter is made up of very tiny particles. Number one. Okay. Matter is made up of very tiny particles. Secondly, now if you see, you take a glass of water and add sugar to it. Mix it. What will happen? Can you see the sugar after some time? You don't see. But where did the sugar disappear? That means there is some space between the molecules of water where these sugar crystals or particles would have gone. Okay, that's why we don't see the sugar in the water after we have mixed it. Okay, so that means particles of matter have space between them. Such experiments prove that particles of matter, they have space between them. So this was the second. Of course, particles of matter are very, very small. They're very small beyond our imagination. Then they also found that these particles of matter, they are attracting each other. Okay, they are attracting each other. They are holding each other. They're not allowing each other to move. Okay, so in a solid, the attraction, this force of attraction is very, very large. That we'll be studying a little later. So they also found that particles of matter, they attract each other. They are holding each other with a force. For example, each one of you, suppose you hold your hands tight. Then the other person who is coming in, or if you're playing such games, in a circle and you hold hands together, and the other person has to ensure that he or she enters into the circle by taking away the hands of the two students. They are holding the hands, and then the third student has to enter the circle, not by jumping across, not by going underneath, but then by using force and allowing, by using force and trying to get their hands off each other. They are holding the hands. So this third student has to get the hands off each other. If you try and play such a game, you will see that a lot of force will be required. That means similarly in matter, what is happening is the particles, these tiny particles are holding each other with a certain force. They're attracted to each other with a certain force. And in order to overcome that force, there will be energy required. It may be in any form. It may be heat energy, it may be light energy, to break that force of attraction. That you'll be learning a little later. So particles of matter, they attract each other. This is the third point. And fourthly, they also found that particles of matter are continuously moving. Okay, so in a solid, they are just vibrating in their own place, but they are moving. And then in a liquid, they are actually moving, because in a liquid, the space between the particles is slightly more than the solids. And in a gas, they are really moving very well, because the particles of matter are very far apart from each other. For example, if you open a bottle of perfume in a room, what happens? Or even in your classroom, even in the corridors and other classes, all the other students also can experience that perfume. They can get that smell of the perfume. That is because the perfume has gas in it, and those gas particles have actually mixed or diffused into the air, right? So the particles of matter, they're continuously moving, maybe in a solid or in a liquid or in a gas. So these are the four characteristics of the particles, and they are known as the particulate nature of matter. Okay. Particulate nature of matter. So the particles of matter are continuously moving. Particles of matter, they attract each other with a certain force. Then particles of matter, they have space between them. And of course, the particles of matter are very, very, very tiny. So these four characteristics of the particles you should be knowing very well. Now let's see what is the difference between the characteristics of the states of matter. First, we'll see whatever you all have been learning. Okay. So based on their shape, size, and the external force and all. So let's see what is the difference. So we have done this shape. If we see the shape of a solid, liquid, and gas, solid has a definite shape. Yes, it has it may be any shape. It may be round, it may be a triangle, rectangle, hexagonal, but it will have a certain definite shape. Liquids, it is not fixed, but they take the shape of the container. Yes, if I put some water in a rectangular beaker, it will appear rectangle. If I put it in a round bottom flask, it will appear round. If I put it in a square glass, it will appear square. Yes, so it is not fixed. And gases, they have no shape at all. There is no shape for the gas at all. Then size, solids have a definite size. Liquids, they have a fixed volume. So if I take some 10 ml of water in a small glass, it will be 10 ml. If I pour this 10 ml into another 100 ml glass, then also the water will have the same volume of 10 ml. It will not change. Then gases, they have no fixed volume. Then by external force, solids may break. If you put a lot of force, then they may break. For example, rubber band. It will break easily. But then for an iron nail to break, I will require a hammer because I require more force to apply more force. Even then it might break. Then liquids, they flow and they change their shape. So the liquids can flow, and while flowing, they will change their shape. And gases, they are highly compressible. They also can flow. That means they can really flow very fast. Then diffusion, solids in water. Liquids, they're faster than solids. Okay, diffusion in water of solids. And then faster than solids is liquids. And gases, we know, we have just seen about the perfume bottle, how they diffuse into the air. Yes. So solids, the diffusion is very low. Liquids, it is more than that of solids. But then gases, it is the most. Then rate of diffusion, it is less than a liquid, solids. Then it is more than solid because of freely movable particles. And this is more than solid and liquid because of the freely moving particles. So the rate of diffusion in gases is the highest. And diffusion, if we even take solids, they'll diffuse very less. They do diffuse, for example, not in much in air, but then in water, if you see, if you pour the solid particles, they will leave out the color and all, so they do diffuse, but then less than liquids and gases. Okay, so these are the characteristics of states of matter depending upon their physical characteristics. Now let us see, based on the particle nature. We have studied about the characteristics of the particle nature of the matter, the three states. Now we're going to see how they differ in the three states. So particles are tightly packed in a solid. So in a solid, if you see, the particles are very, 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 very close to each other. They are very close to each other. Yes. Okay. And they, because of this close nature, and they are not moving, so they are only vibrating. So particles of matter, they're very, very, very closely packed. This way. There's hardly any space between them. There is very, very less of interatomic space or intermolecular space. So they are arranged in a regular pattern, so solids get their definite shape because of these particles which are in a regular pattern. Then particles in a solid will vibrate. As I told you, we know that particles are continuously moving. So in a solid, what do? They vibrate. They're continuously vibrating in their own positions. And they cannot move beyond this vibration. They cannot move from one place to another. So they are vibrating in their own places. Then solids retain their shape. Solids are continuously moving, and solids are, the particles are very closely packed in a solid. That means their force of attraction is very high. In a solid, the force of attraction, we have studied about force of attraction between particles. Yes. So because of the less space between the particles, there is less space, and so the force of attraction is high. Okay, in a solid. Now in liquids, what happens? The particles in liquids are close together, but there is no regular pattern, and there is space. If you see, there is space between the particles of the liquid. There is space. Okay, then particles in a liquid, they can flow because they can move. Particles in a, they can easily move or slide past one another. So the force of attraction now here will be less as compared to the solid, as compared to the solid. And liquids, they assume the shape of their containers. So according to the three characteristics of the particles in a liquid, the particles are slightly far apart from each other. Secondly, their force of attraction is less than that of solids. And thirdly, they can move or slide over each other. They don't have to vibrate. They can move from one place to another. Okay, in a gas, what happens? Particles in a gas are very far apart. If you see, compared to solids and liquids, there's a lot of space. If you see, all this is the space. There's a lot of space between the molecules of the gas, and so they can move easily, and the force of attraction is less. At high speeds, they can move very fast. So gases assume the shape of their containers or the entire space which is available. They can occupy the entire space because they can move very fast as compared to solids and liquids. So according to the particles nature of matter, this is the difference between a solid, liquid and gas. Okay. Now let us see what is melting point. Now what happens? We know that there is change of state. Solid to liquid, liquid to gas. Yes, there can be change of states. Now, how does this change of state take place? Solid can change to liquid. Liquid can change to gas. Okay. Gas can change to liquid and liquid to solid. Solid to liquid on heating. Okay. Liquid to gas again on heating. Gas to solid is cooling. And liquid to solid is also again by cooling. This is heating. Okay. So then change of state. These three states of matter can change from one state to another. Solid to liquid and liquid to gas is by heating. And gas to liquid and liquid to solid is by cooling. Okay, so there can be change in the states of matter. Now what happens? When a solid is heated, we're talking about a solid, and we heat this, triangle indicates heat, it will change into liquid. Okay, now what is happening? So there will be, if we measure the temperature, there is a point at which the complete solid changes into a liquid. Okay, so when a substance is changing from solid to liquid, the process is called melting or fusion. Solid to liquid is called melting or fusion. And the temperature at which a solid starts melting is called fusion point or the melting point. Once it starts melting, it will change into the next state. So that temperature is known as the melting point or the fusion point. Okay. Now, if we conduct this experiment where we have taken some ice cubes and we are heating the ice cubes, of course, the complete setup has to be done with a clamp and the burner, tripod stand, and we take a thermometer also to note the temperature. Okay. So what happens is when the ice cubes start melting and they slowly they will change into water. But if we see the thermometer, there will be no change in temperature. I am continuously providing heat. I'm not stopping this heat. This heat is continuously being provided. I have not switched off the burner. That means heat is continuously being provided. So what should happen? The temperature should keep on increasing. But that does not happen. So where does the heat go? Is the question. Where does this heat go? Heat is being supplied. So where is this heat going? So this heat which is being supplied is being used to change the state. To change the state, now we have already seen solid. The particles are very, very close to each other. Yes. That means they have a lot of force of attraction. Right? So this heat is being used to overcome this force of attraction. The heat is used, yes, heat which is being supplied is used to overcome the force of attraction. Okay? Force of attraction between the molecules. So if the force of attraction decreases or becomes less, only then the solid will change into liquid. So to overcome that force of attraction, this heat which we are providing is used, but it is not changing the temperature. At that same temperature, all these actions are going on. So this heat is known as the hidden heat. Okay, this is known as a hidden heat and known as latent heat of fusion. So latent heat of fusion or melting of solid is a quantity of heat in joules required to convert 1 kg of solid to liquid without any change in temperature. So what is latent heat? Latent heat is the amount of heat required to change the solid into liquid. Okay. So if we are talking about 1 kg of a solid into liquid at the same temperature, the temperature does not change. The temperature is the melting point of the solid. So it is not changing and it is allowing the solid to change into liquid. So that is known as the latent heat. And the latent heat of fusion of ice is 3.34 into 10 to the power of 5 joules per kg. Okay, 10 to 3.34 into 10 to the power of 5 joules per kg. You should know what is this latent heat. So latent heat is nothing but the hidden heat. So what is happening here is when the solid is changing into liquid using heat, the temperature remains the same. So the heat which is being supplied, the hidden heat or the latent heat, is the heat energy which is being used to convert the solid into liquid at the same temperature or without change of temperature. Okay, so this is known as latent heat of fusion. Similarly, you will also have latent heat of vaporization. So at any point of time, if we see latent heat of fusion, water which is just converting or solid converting into liquid, or here the ice cubes converting into water. So that water will have more heat than the ice at the same temperature. If you take that water, it will have more heat energy because it is having that latent heat. Okay. So this is known as the latent heat of vaporization. Understood? Okay. Now let's see what is latent heat of vaporization. Now latent heat of vaporization, now this is what is happening here? Liquid is changing into gas. And what are we using? Heat. Okay. So if we take here, for example, water to steam or vapor. So what will happen? Now we start providing some heat to water. So the water will continuously keep changing into vapor at 100 degrees centigrade. Water starts boiling and changing into vapor. So at 100 degrees centigrade, steam is being formed. But if we measure using a temperature, we will see that 100 degrees centigrade will remain at 100 degrees centigrade till the entire water changes into vapor. So where is that heat going? That heat is being used to overcome the force of attraction between the particles. So in a liquid, the particles are like this. They are already having some force of attraction and they have to change into vapor. So they have to overcome that force of attraction and change into vapor. So this latent heat is being used to overcome those forces of attraction of the water molecules and change into vapor or steam. Okay. So the latent heat of vaporization is the heat required to change the liquid from liquid to vapor state at its boiling point. Remember, the boiling point will not change till when? Till the complete water has changed into vapor and without any change in temperature. So latent heat of vaporization for water is 22 lakh 6,000. You can put it as 22.6 into 10 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Joules per kg. This is the latent heat of vaporization of water. So if we provide so much of heat, this much of heat, if it is provided for 1 kg of water, then it will completely change into vapor. So this much of heat is required. So many joules of heat is required for 1 kg of water. If you take 2 kgs of water, you will have to double the amount of heat. Are you understanding what is this figure here? This is the amount of heat required for 1 kg of water. So many joules, 22.6 into 10 to the power of 4 joules of energy, heat energy is required to change 1 kg of water into steam. Okay, at boiling point of water at 100 degrees centigrade. So if you see a graph, you'll see the temperature solid to liquid. So latent heat of fusion. Here, if you see this part is the latent heat of fusion. That means the solid is changing into liquid. Continuously, the process is going on. Okay, but then there is no change in temperature because the latent heat of fusion is being used to overcome the force of attraction of the solid particles and change into liquid. Similarly, if we take a liquid to vapor, again there is a part where the latent heat of vaporization, where the liquid is changing into steam or vapor, but then there is no change in the temperature. The temperature remains constant. This would be 0 degrees centigrade. This is 100 degrees centigrade. But the action is continuing. The process continues. Okay. So this is about latent heat of vaporization and latent heat of fusion. So you should know both of them very well. Fine. So till now, what have we done? What have you learned? You have learned about what is matter, And what are the states of matter? Although there are 5 states, there are 2 more states also. The scientists had or are still studying about it, which is the plasma state and the Bose-Einstein condensate. Okay, so they have all charged and ionized particles in it. So we'll be concentrating on solid, liquid, and gas, the 3 states of matter. So we have seen that according to the physical characteristics, how they are differentiated, and also according to the particle nature of matter, how they are differentiated. Now, if we come to what are the characteristics of the particles, matter is made up of particles, very, 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 very tiny particles. Now, what are the characteristics? Number one is particles of matter, they are continuously moving. In solids, they are vibrating. In liquids and gases, they have space so they can move. Then, secondly, particles of matter, they attract each other. They attract each other. They are holding each other with a certain force. They are holding to each other with a certain force. Then, third one is particles of matter, they have space between them. In solids, the space is negligible. In liquids, there is slightly more space between the particles, and in gases, there's a lot of space between the particles. So this is what we have done till now. So next we will be seeing about more of evaporation, okay, and what are the effects of evaporation and what are the factors on which evaporation depends. Okay, so these we'll be doing in the next class, right? So till we see you in the next class, this is Usha Mangipudi signing off.